Welcome to the Caregiving Podcast. I'm Inga.
And I'm Julie.
And long story short, we have Caregiving. We are two momtrepreneurs who have built an in-home care business from the ground up, guided every step of the way by God's care and fueled by agape love. Almost 14 years later, we felt called to create this podcast as a resource for families with caregiving needs. Whether you care for a family member or are looking for advice on professional caregiving, we want this to be a platform to support you.
Each week, we will come to you with encouraging stories of families who have found the right balance for their loved ones, tips for how to care for them and you, and much more. We hope you continue to join us each week as we share in this exciting new journey together.
Hello, Sunshines, and hello, Julie. How are you?
I'm good, Inga.
Starting off laughing, that's always a good sign. It's because you brought something fancy to the table today.
I brought my ascot.
You did bring your ascot. So I'm so glad that you did.
Yes, we had to look it up and make sure that this was an
We
ascot.
need to know our ascots from our ascots.
Make sure you have your ascot together.
Yes, we need to know our ascots from our kerchiefs. Neckerchiefs.
Neckerchiefs.
And what else?
Cravat.
Something.
Credenza.
Also a fancy word.
All of the big words.
Oh my goodness. Oh, well, I am excited about today's topic actually, because I think we can bring some levity to it, and it can be sometimes intense.
Yes.
Those family dynamics.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. But anyway.
Yeah,
I'm glad to get to it. So speaking of that, what's your favorite family memory?
Oh, I've been thinking a lot about that, and I just have separate ones that, because I have such a lovely family.
Yes.
But one of them was way back when Dad took my brother Richard and I and a whole group of guys, and we went into the Bob Marshall for 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just quite a trip. Just an amazing trip, and the opportunity to get to do that. And then just more recently, just even when in the fall, I'm taking the cows to Missoula, the calves, I stop halfway in Ronan and pick up Mom, and she goes to the auction yards with me, and we just have that time, and it's super fun. I love that. And then always my favorite childhood memories were when we got together with the cousins.
Oh yeah. And
just a rowdy group. And then now we get together as adults with all of our own kids, and it's just a ball. Just an awesome bunch, and just nothing but laughter and love, and it's just wonderful.
Oh, that's great. I do love your family.
Yes.
I do enjoy my time around them. Very fun.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, trying to narrow it down. And so what a testament to my growing up and then my having my own family when there are many, many memories to pick from.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is you're talking about the Bob Marshall, reminded me actually of a super fun time when I was young and we went on a wagon train.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So basically I don't even remember what the group of people was. I mean, I remember who they were, but just kids and adults and horses pulling wagons. And, I don't remember how many days the trip was. I remember at one point it was really rainy and, we're kind of holed up in our tents or in our wagons trying to stay dry, playing cards with the other kids.
Cute.
A lot of my childhood stuff revolves around doing activities with our horses. We used to Moxie a lot and do games
fun.
And show them. I didn't enjoy the showing as much as I did the gaming on horses, but yeah, that's cool. And then, with my own kids and with Kevin and I, of course, all of the trips that we've taken to show lambs with Bailey, and then traveling all across the state of Montana with Sammy when she was racing motocross. Yeah, so lots of good ones.
Yep. I didn't include any of my more recent favorite memories with my kids, but there's just so many.
Yeah, how cool is that?
Yeah.
Lots to pick
Pretty
from.
blessed.
I think when we talked about this actually before recording, you're like, all of them.
Yes.
All of them are my favorites.
Yes.
Which that's great.
Yes.
Very good. Yeah, so our verse of the week today is actually John chapter 14, verse 27. Peace I leave with you, may peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid.
Yes, I picked that verse for this topic because of peace. We're going to be talking about some troubling times that people are having, and we've got to all be able to stop and find some peace in what's going on in our world.
Yes, I agree with that. I think that is a beautiful transition into what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. We just can't forget to remember that where we get our peace.
Yes, go back to that. Lean on that when you start to feel like you're spinning out of control. And you know, family dynamics can create some intense emotions. Yeah. So don't forget where you can go to find that peace.
Right.
For sure. So you out there, listeners, if you have a verse you'd like to share with us, please email those to the caregivenpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
Do you have an uplifting story for us?
I do. This is called How Dialing the Wrong Number Gained a New Friend. And this is a little bit of family dynamics. But basically, this gal, she was in her about 82 years old, and she had moved after her husband died to be closer to some of the kids. And she didn't want to be a burden on them. But she did want to do things. She did want to get to church and do this and that and the other. So her daughter was helping her find these different taxi numbers, but she was having a heck of a time finding a taxi that she trusted or that they would even return the call. She was getting quite frustrated. So anyway, she found a number. She called it and left a message. Well, the next day they didn't get a hold of her, and she's like, oh, great, here we go again. But then this, out of the blue, a couple days later, this lady called and said, hey, you left a message on my number, but I'm not a taxi. And she goes, oh, I am so sorry that I bothered. She goes, no, I can do that. Where do you need to go? Oh. And she's like, what? And she said, yeah, you personally will help me? And she's like, absolutely. I would love to help you. So they got to talking over the phone, and she goes, I'll take you to church this Sunday. So this lady that, you know, she's like, what is going on? So the lady showed up on Sunday, and she was, you know, very clean, very pretty, very nice vehicle. And she just wanted to give.
Wow.
And so she ended up taking her to church. And then as they got to church, they started talking to people. And the lady was like, well, she's, you know, wanting to get back and forth to church. And all of a sudden, our little 82-year-old is finding all of these offers of people that would be happy to take her shopping, happy to take her to and from church. And as they were talking, they got to realize that they had so many similar things. They loved dogs. They lived in log cabins. So anyway, what our little 82-year-old lady realized is, she said, why couldn't I accept the blessings of allowing others the opportunity to serve by helping me? Mm-hmm. And she said that was the start of a whole new attitude. I guess I dialed just the right number after all.
That is so cool.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the theme that we talk about all the time. And people generally are good, and they want to help, and they want to do right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I selected mine off of Upworthy, and I selected it for a couple of reasons. One, because we're going to be talking about family, and you know how this ties together with that, and the importance of family is really cool. And then secondly, because sometimes what we want in life, what we order, we don't necessarily get. And that can be frustrating at times, but I think really the end result may be more fulfilling or rewarding than what we had hoped for in the beginning. So this story starts off and it says, so I forgot to change my address on my Chipotle app. So I told the driver to go ahead and just keep the food because the old address was back in Iowa. I was dead bleep mad at first, but after reading this, I'm really happy that this happened. So basically the delivery driver texts, I'm here with your order. And the person responds, take it with you, bro, and enjoy the lunch. I forgot to change my address and I am currently in Maryland. And the driver responds, okay, thanks. Shortly thereafter, the driver responds with a little bit longer message. And it says, I wanted to thank you again. It's my brother's birthday today, and he is laid to rest not far from where you had me take this delivery. Oh. I'm having lunch with him today because of you. Oh. You have no idea how much that means to me. I truly appreciate it.
Oh.
Right? Yeah, so he didn't get his lunch, but he got something far more rewarding in that.
That's sweet.
This gentleman got to have lunch with his brother.
Oh.
I know.
Dang it, Inga. You're going to make me cry.
Don't do that. Good cries. Good tears.
Yes. What a great story.
I thought so.
So sweet.
I thought so.
Yes.
All right. Whew.
Yeah. Knock
Time
it
to dig
off.
into those family dynamics around caring for aging parents.
Yes. Oh, boy, oh boy. We all have family dynamics. You can't have a family with some dynamics. I always used to say that I thought I was dysfunctional until I started a home care agency, because then it opened up my eyes to all of the families and all of the dynamics. And I was like, you know what? I am just one of everybody else.
Oh my gosh. So true.
Yes.
And it does not matter.
No.
It doesn't matter how much you have, how little you have, what color you are. It's there.
How many kids?
Yep.
All of it.
Everybody has it.
Yeah.
And some like good to the extreme and some difficult to the extreme and some just in the middle.
And we've gotten into the middle of that. When you get into home care and you become somebody's people, you become part of their village. And boy, you learn all of the family dynamics, and you are just shocked sometimes at some of the different behaviors. And that's really, really a tough place to be sometimes.
Yes. Well, and for us, and like most families, by the time we get involved with the situation, 90% of the time, maybe even more than that, it's already in chaos and crisis. And a lot of times that's when those dynamics will start to surface when the going gets tough, basically.
Oh my gosh. And what is so interesting is things that you haven't talked about for 50 or 60 years, just as something that happened when you were a kid, all of a sudden it just bubbles up.
Yep.
Because of the stress or because of the feelings that are coming up, and just the most difficult things arise when we're all supposed to be united for that loved one.
It's true. And some things that, you know, as an outsider, you're looking in on saying, gosh, that's so insignificant in the scheme of things, but to the person that it happened to or was involved in it, it's not insignificant to them.
Right.
So it is interesting. And I think part of what we wanted to talk about today is how to kind of keep those things in check and how you can prepare yourself. Part of that is just planning ahead.
Yeah.
You know, you see the crisis coming, you see the decline in your parents, try to take action and make plans as collaboratively as possible before you're in total chaos.
Yeah. Yep. And it's all going to happen to all of us. Everything from selling the family home, giving up the car, choosing a retirement community, deciding on care options or end of life decisions, can strain certain family relationships and sometimes, unfortunately, beyond repair. So one of the things that I really want people to get from today is that we're going to give a few examples of things that we've gotten into the middle of.
Sure.
But you know what? We all have it. You're not alone.
Right.
And so if you think what you've got going on is absolutely so devastating, sometimes it helps people to know that they're not the only one, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's kind of what I'm hoping is that if we can give even a little bit of comfort, just because you're in a bad situation, hang on.
Hang on. Something that is really important to do is to remember the focus of what you're trying to do. So remember to keep that focus, you know, on your parent, if that's who you're caring for, on your aunt, your uncle, whoever. Don't lose sight of that. You know, don't get into the little side squabbles on, you know, when we were kids, this happened, that happened, whatever, you know, where you're fighting with siblings over things that aren't really relevant to the situation. So keep the focus correct.
Well, and so let's talk about the players. So basically we have mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, whoever it is that we're taking care of. And then you have the people that are going to be helping. So is there 4 kids in your family? Is there 10 kids in your family? Is there a son that was disengaged this whole time because he was so busy rearing his own kids that all of a sudden he suddenly appears and he's the expert and he's going to take over? Or is there the one family, you know, where somebody lives in the boondocks but they think that they know everything, and the local person who's been just really busting their rear, helping with the day-to-day, it's like they don't even know what's really going on. So there's so many reasons that these things come up. Another reason is when somebody just is in denial that there's
Oh,
mom or dad is declining.
That's huge. And we see that one of the cases that we're helping with right now is it's a really interesting thing because the kids are united in their denial. And that's tough.
Oh, yes.
That's tough. It's hard for the caregivers because the caregivers, I mean, they're there many, many hours, during the day, and they see what's going on, and they can wrap their heads around what's happening and make recommendations. And, we as agency owners and advisors can make recommendations. But when you have, I mean, I guess the beauty in it is that they are all united. Mm-hmm. The challenge in it is that they are just in absolute denial over what is happening and what needs to happen to care for that person as they truly are coming to the end of their life.
Oh, so hard.
Yeah. So hard. I mean, I guess that's a good bad one or a bad good one or they come everywhere. And you're right. When you talk about a lot of times what we see is you have a local person or, maybe even a 24/7 person that is, I mean, they're in the gutter, man. They are doing it all. And then you've got the expert that's been out of state or, too busy doing their own thing, and they want to come in and criticize and critique. And it's really hard because when you're doing it every, day to day, you get so defensive over what you're doing. And then this expert person comes in, and a lot of times I think it's maybe not just what's being said, but how it's being said.
Right.
And really, I don't want to discredit the person that's coming in that hasn't been there, but also we want to make sure to say that, you might not know everything, and you're definitely not in the trenches.
Right.
So there has to be a good communication and conversations over what's happening and why things are happening, and openness on both sides to listen to what's going on and each other, and maybe validate. But I do think that the 24/7 person is the person that we have to protect at all costs. Right?
I absolutely agree with you. There was a situation where one of the clients, they had one of their kids was way far away, but and she had dementia, and every time though that person would call, she could have a great conversation with them.
Oh yeah.
And she could answer the question and she could do this and just be delightful. And then after she'd hang up the phone, she would look at her daughter that was there 24/7 and say, that was just a wonderful conversation. Who was I talking to?
Yes.
But the person on the other line was like, Mom sounded great. I don't even understand
She's
why,
fine. What are
why
you talking
you
about?
think she needs this help and this help and this help.
Yes.
And so that's really tough.
I think we've talked about before how important experience can be in that, maybe you have the expert that's flying in from out of state, use that, take that opportunity to step away for a little bit and really let them get immersed in what's going on
What's
so
really
that they
going
can
on.
see and maybe have a little bit more understanding or empathy for what you're going through.
Yeah.
I do think though, we need to be careful because there are times when the 24/7 person can become so overwhelmed that it's not healthy for them, and they may isolate and not allow anybody else in there. And you don't want it to become a situation where things are going on that really do need some intervention. So there is a balance between all of those things and recognizing how to protect that person, but also support them if they start to, disallow any help from the outside.
Right.
That makes sense.
It sure does. And then also another scenario that is more and more common nowadays is blended families. I was just visiting with a family yesterday, and she was just talking about there's 3 siblings and her and her 2 brothers. And as she was going along and kind of talking about some of the struggles that they were having because of a new wife situation, and that caused some issues because new ideas came in. But all of a sudden out of the blue, she's like, well, there is a little bit of favoritism going on, I feel, because that is Mom's only biological son. And I had no idea that there was then that degree of more complexity.
Right.
And so here with that family, there's the one biological, then they had adopted another little boy and little girl.
Right.
So there was that unit. Another home visit I did a couple weeks ago, with the total, they had both been married before. So he brought 3 kids, she brought 2 kids. But in the second marriage, there was 4 kids, and he had adopted them. So they had a total of 9 children.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was really interesting. Besides that complexity of his, hers, and ours, then came all of the visiting that was coming and all of the ideas, the new things, and the present wife was just really trying to keep it together.
Well, think about being on a committee.
Yes.
You've been on many committees before in your life,
Yes, I
right?
don't like them.
And because basically we're very strong, we're very take charge, we just want to make the decision and move forward. And so when you then have to share the decision making with, a multitude of people that maybe have different ideas on how things are supposed to happen.
Yeah.
It just can become tense.
Well, think about that committee. I like the way that you put that. So in that committee, you've got some people that are very affluent. They are very successful. They have extra money. You might have a sister that didn't do so well, but she's, the one that's putting in the blood, sweat, and tears. Then you've got the super educated one, but they don't have any street smarts.
Right.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Literally, am I talking about everybody's family in the world that we're talking about right now?
Nailed it.
Is that each of us has our thing.
Right.
And so we're all going to bring different perspectives into this quagmire.
Yes. And I think it's just super important to try to go into conversations and planning with an open mind and hear the other people, right? And especially if you want them to hear you, then you have to make sure to hear them and listen to it, listen to everybody's ideas, and then try to work together to put together a plan that is going to best serve all of the family members. Again, of course, keeping in mind that the focal point is whether it's the parent, the grandparent, aunt, uncle, whoever it is. And it might even be a situation where, it's a family dynamic situation, but none of the family lives here. And then there's a neighbor that lives next door that does all of the heavy lifting, right? So there's a lot of players that can come into these situations. The flip side of that is that sometimes we come across people that have nobody.
Right.
So that's another family dynamic.
Family dynamic of becoming their family.
Yep.
And we try to help them. We do have very strict professional boundaries when it comes to that, because we cannot become anybody's power of attorney or get on checking accounts or any of that. But that is a big deal. Another scenario that I have is where the children are all about mom and they're mad at dad for things that they say happened years and years ago. And it's been interesting watching that dynamic because, in my opinion, they're just really serving for mother and they're doing a wonderful job for her, but they've just kind of put dad to the side.
Right.
And
it's hard because for us,
so hard.
We don't get to make a judgment.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened.
Right.
So we've got to try to support the kids, support the mom, support the dad, balance all of these things. And it's just this, stay neutral in the middle of it because we really don't know what happened. And it's tough. It's tough. So being that middleman can be hard.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure we don't make our own judgments in the situation.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So once again, the reason we're giving these examples is because of just saying you're not alone. There's a bunch of stuff going on with every single family.
Huge. Yep. Absolutely. You are not alone. And it doesn't matter where you come from, where you are in your life now. There are going to be just dynamics that come into it.
What about the family that half of the kids did not want dad to leave the assisted living, but mother desperately wanted him home so that he could be there till the end of his days? Right.
That was a tough one. I mean, that was a law enforcement's involved in this situation.
Yeah.
And, where do you go? I mean, for us in that situation, we honored what the wife wanted and kind of just went deferred to her and helped her set things up in a way that made it safe for him to be at home. And I mean, it's tough. And you hope that you don't find yourself in a situation where it's so tense and, the disagreement is so strong that it comes to that. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we really did right by the family, and we
Yes.
did right by the client who wanted to be at home, and he was
Yes.
able to do that and be safe and
Yes.
be surrounded by his family. And although a few of the kids weren't necessarily happy with that decision.
Well, I think you're not quite bringing up exactly how unhappy they were. We literally had one of the sons calling us and threatening us with legal action, but we also had to honor, like you said, what mom and dad wanted, and he wanted to be at home till the end.
Yep.
And boy, when you have somebody yelling at you about legalities and you're just trying to do your job for that family,
Right.
but not all of the family felt the same way he did.
Right.
So boy, that was one of those that we were like, oh,
Right. And honestly, think about probably maybe other agencies maybe would have said, oh, you know what, we're not going to get involved.
Yeah.
But I think that's a testament to who we are
Yeah.
and really just trying to honor people at the end of their life and give them the quality that they deserve.
Yeah. So once again, I think that within all of the dynamics, what you have to do is what you've said at the very beginning, focus on the person that needs the care.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really check yourself. Make sure that you are doing it for the right reasons, because, you know, in the situation we just talked about, the son for sure thought he was doing it for his right reasons. You know, the sisters, they didn't think so, and the mom and dad. But be honest with yourself. Look yourself in the mirror, check yourself, and say, am I doing this for myself? Am I doing this for my dad? Am I doing this right?
Yeah.
And again, put that focus back on the person that you're caring for. Supposed to be caring for.
And once again, it was perspective, but unfortunately, in this family, at the end of it all was a whole bunch of money. And I mean, that's not the elephant in the room.
It is for a lot of families.
Yeah, they were mad. He was mad, I think, mostly because that mom was willing to spend the money to have us there for dad's comfort and for her heart.
Yes.
And he didn't want that money spent
Right.
that way.
Right.
And
It's tough. It is tough.
yeah.
It's a lot of dysfunction out there,
Oh,
but
my goodness.
functional dysfunction.
Yes.
And we're nobody to judge. I mean, honestly, we aren't. We don't know what happened.
No, we all have our things in any family situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try to support each other,
Oh, try.
really try to support each other as best as you can. And you know what? I get it. There are going to be some situations where you try and maybe it's a sibling or an aunt and they just aren't going to accept what you're doing to reach out. But try, at least try.
Yeah. That's all we can ask and ask. I think that truly, if there are some really, really big divisions, you're going to have to figure out who can be the negotiator in your family. And let's say your aunt can't be in the same room with the other aunt.
Right.
Okay, then come at separate times to visit.
Right. And if there's, basically if there's questions about care, something that you could do, and we had Jennifer Crowley on one time before, but I mean, maybe bring in like a third party person, a neutral person that really doesn't benefit or gain anything from doing the assessment and making a recommendation. Yeah. Especially in a situation where siblings disagree about the level of care someone needs.
Yeah. There are times that siblings may inadvertently or on purpose be excluded from some decision making. Yes. And then you're making a decision that when they find out about it, because they will.
Yes.
Don't think you're being sneaky, because everything always comes to a head. Right.
I have a situation of a family that I knew, and it's a tough one because there are the kids, and not everybody has the same financial background, and not everybody has the same country versus city, and some decisions were made leaving out one of the siblings that, really had a rural connection, and it was just devastating. And, but on the flip side of it, the family members that are taking care of the finances felt like they had to make a decision to literally sell the farm because that's how it had to be handled. And, that stuff can be really hard. It can be really hurtful, and it can be lifelong. You know, I don't know that family, those siblings will ever recover from how things went down. And I think that none of it was done in an attempt to be malicious, but there just wasn't enough communication over what was happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you have to look down the road because in life, is there anything so important, any more important than family?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah. You can buy all of the stuff.
Yeah.
But what is it? It's those memories that we were talking about when we very first started.
Well, and at the end of the day, who do you want? What do you want by your side?
Yeah.
Do you want a sibling? Do you want a parent? Or do you want a thing?
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you're in having that problem, just think at some point that person that you're caring for isn't going to be here anymore. And were they the glue that kept everything together? So if they are, how are you going to repair?
Right.
And keep traditions together, build new traditions if you have to.
Right.
And so it's hard.
It is.
It's a lot of work to keep a family together.
It is. That's exactly, you nailed it. It is work.
Yeah.
It takes work, and you have to invest in it, you know, invest your time, invest your energy.
It's really easy to get ticked off if somebody doesn't call you. But remember that the phone rings both ways. Yeah.
And I think that basically if you have a situation or a sibling or someone who feels like they're doing all the heavy lifting, you know, give them support. Maybe you don't live here, but let them know that you acknowledge what they're doing.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. Just because every one of us, there's 4 of us in my family. And thankfully we're all pretty like-minded when it comes to when we had to deal with dad stuff and, you know, all of that. But, you know, one lives clear across on the East Coast and, you know, so if one of us is taking care of another, I hope that they would reach out and just say, hey, thanks for what you're doing. Or, oh my gosh, you know what, here's a gift certificate to go get your hair cut. Take care of you for a second.
Yes.
Well, I know I'm not there. I know that you are working really hard, you know.
Those little gestures are huge.
Yeah.
And just taking the time to try to see things from somebody else's point of view.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. Something that happens is sometimes people will start to fall back into those old childhood memories and they'll dredge up those childhood hurts and almost regress back to that behavior.
Yeah.
And it can be detrimental.
Oh boy. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it happens so quickly, right? You're absolutely shocked. Or it's a memory you don't even remember.
And something comes up
and you're just like, wait a minute, did that happen? Or, oh my gosh, I hadn't thought about that for how many years?
Yeah.
Are you still mad at me about that? Oh, I am sorry.
Right.
How can you write that hurt right now? 30, 40 years later.
Yeah, it's tough, but I think maybe just the first step is just acknowledging that.
Oh, I think so.
And letting someone, again, it's just being heard, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Another thing that happens is parents will resist care. How many home visits do you do when the kids are just desperate to get help in there and the parents are like, what are you talking about? We're fine. It's all under control.
Oh, my goodness.
As it's spiraling out, spiraling into a muck.
Yes, a muck. Yes, hopefully people are getting smarter or getting more prepared as their elderly parents or themselves are getting older and saying, okay, we need to make some plans.
Yes.
And if they know that their own kids are there's already issues, they better just make a plan and say, you're going to do this and you're going to do this and this is how it's going to work. But when they don't want the care, then sometimes tough love is the way you have to go.
Well, and I think sometimes it's kind of figuring out, why are they resisting?
Yeah.
Is it because they don't want to spend the money on themselves? Is it because they're in denial about the situation that they're in? What's the reason? Maybe they've just been strong and independent all their life and they don't think that someone needs to come in there and tell them how to live.
Yeah.
I mean, you just recently had one where it's literally just a very small area, a very small space. And so the wife knows she needs the extra hand, but they don't want to be on top of each other. So, okay, how do we work around that? There's maybe a sitting area in the a condo complex.
Yep.
And so really kind of honing in on what are the reasons why they're resisting care.
Yeah.
It could just be that they are just not going to have it.
They themselves
not
are
gonna
in,
be told what to do.
denial themselves.
Yeah.
And quite often they don't want to spend the money.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
I have had a lot of families just say, Dad, that I don't need that money.
Right.
I need you to spend it on yourself.
Right. Yeah, because you have two situations. Sometimes you have the parents that don't want to spend the money because they want to make sure that it is left for their children.
Yes.
Sometimes you have children who don't want the parents to spend the money because the children want to make sure that the money is left for the children. Two different things. But
what is that bumper sticker you see quite often? Spending my children's inheritance.
Yes. Yes. That is so funny.
Oh.
I love the ones where the kids are like, they worked hard. They
Yeah.
earned this money. They need to spend it on themselves and take care of themselves.
Nothing.
Stay at home.
Yeah, nothing tickles me more than when I go into a home visit and there's more than the one kid over there, and everybody's on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, I will just turn to the mom or the dad or whoever and say, "Boy, you did a wonderful job raising these kids."
Yes.
Because they're just the love that they have for you is overcoming everything else.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that the people that are in chaos were not bad parents or but just family dynamics.
Yes.
It's just remember that time you punched me?
Right.
No. Yeah.
I remember the time I wanted to.
Yes.
No. So part of the planning process is getting paperwork in order, and I'm the biggest one to preach this and the worst one about actually doing it. Your general powers of attorney, durables for the healthcare and for financial, and some families will kind of split those up and say, okay, you're really good at this. We're going to assign you. You'll be the financial power of attorney. You're good at making these medical decisions, and but also understand that sometimes you need to make sure that whoever you are assigning this to, A, is equipped to do it, B, wants to do it, because it's a big job and they're taking on something very huge. It's a lot of responsibility. So make sure that it's the right person for the job.
Right. Something that I wanted to touch on that we see occasionally is when it has gotten so toxic that you actually have such a parent that was so manipulative or just really, really hard. And then all of a sudden they need you. Mm-hmm. And after all of those years of you trying to get healthy from whatever it was that you had to deal with when you're growing up, and now you have to go back and be the gracious one to help that person. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stories out there about, my mom was just terrible to me, and I hadn't had anything to do with her until the doctor called and said, you got to come take her. Mm-hmm. And these people are pretty amazing to me, that they find it within themselves to forgive and to love. One of the problems is maybe even the diagnosis that we're dealing with. So if they have like a dementia or any confusion on board, whatever the process is, multiple sclerosis or any of those that affect the brain, this is not the same person. Mm-hmm. So if they're being mean to you right now or they're saying ugly things, it's not necessarily them, it's the disease.
That is one of the biggest things that we have to remind ourselves, our caregivers, our clients, our family members, is that, if someone is behaving, they're saying things to you or they're acting in a way, you have to remember they're not in their right mind. Yeah. There is something that is causing this. You are the one of sound mind at this point. So
enter their world
and just try to let it roll, which is really oftentimes easier said than done.
Oh my goodness.
Because, and especially as if you're talking about a situation where maybe it was a toxic relationship early on, and then you're, asking that person to go back for another beating, it's just going to rekindle that flame of the trauma probably. So maybe be careful on that, but also try your best to remember that if someone is behaving in a way that's out of character, they're just not in their right mind.
Yeah.
And look at the disease, if you research it, go out there, look at message boards or ask questions, because somebody has gone through it before you.
Oh my goodness. One of the worst situations I feel personally through the years that we've been doing this, one of the hardest clients was a traumatic brain injury. And he was in his mid 50s.
Yeah.
So he wasn't old, but he just had a traumatic situation. And he turned out to be really, really difficult.
Yeah. He
And
was
mean.
angry.
Oh,
He was so angry over the situation. And I mean, who can blame him for
Right.
that, really?
Right.
But yes, he was, and it was tough. Like, as agency owners, we had to be really careful with sending our caregivers into that, and staying on top of it to know how much can someone take, because this person, while he is not in his right mind, it still can be pretty defeating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was a tough one. I mean, he actually made me cry. Yeah, just because he was in his state. He was so angry, and I couldn't blame him for that. But he also knew buttons to push.
He did. Yeah, he absolutely did. And it kind of makes you wonder, like, well, what was the personality of this person prior to the brain injury? And but yeah, that was a tough situation. And he never made me cry, because I'm not grossed out by feet. I mean, they're not my favorite thing in the world, but
yucky.
You can't argue with a foot rub. So basically, that's my go-to. If I know that I'm going to have to be a caregiver in a situation that could be tense, I'm just going to make sure that I have some like foot massage lotion or something with me, because what are you going to do? You can't argue with that, right? So I'll just, rub feet and have a conversation, and nobody gets to be mean, and that's how we roll. That's where you went wrong.
I simply can't do it.
I know. Feet gross you
That
out.
makes you a better caregiver than me, because I don't even like the look of feet. I don't even like my own feet.
I know. Tried to get you a pedicure before, and you're like, oh, gross.
Ew, ew, ew.
You're weird. The pedicure is one of the best things in the world.
Ew, gross me out.
Yeah. What do you have talons or something? What's wrong with your feet?
They're adorable.
Are they?
Yes.
Okay, well, but show them off, man.
No, I can't.
Put some pretty little paint on their toenails and go along with your ascot.
Want to see my ascot and my pretty toenails?
Yes.
Ew. Yeah.
Carry on.
Yes,
Moving
carry
forward.
on. I think we've talked about the end of life situation and then the money inheritances and such.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about a lot of different scenarios.
Yeah. And it just comes down to giving each other grace.
Yeah.
And trying to see, put yourself in somebody else's shoes and understand, if somebody's not helping, maybe there's a reason why.
Simply can't.
I know that when my grandpa passed away, all of the kids were here and the grandkids were here, and we all had different responses and reactions to it. And I had to really work on myself to say, why does one cousin not want to go and see grandpa? And really it was just that's not the memory that I want to have at the end. Whereas for me, it's like, I just want to be right by his bedside. And you just have to take the time to understand that just because you feel a certain way doesn't mean somebody else does. And you're coming at it from one perspective and they're coming at it from another perspective, and just be graceful and gracious to each other.
And I do think that if you are in a scenario and you already know the players, and of course you do, they're your family, what you have to do is you just absolutely have to figure out how you're going to deal with each one of them differently.
Right.
Sometimes we just have to listen.
Yep.
Doesn't mean we have to respond.
Yep.
Doesn't mean we have to do what they say.
Right.
But just listen to them, let them be heard. And sometimes you just have to stay away from them.
Yes. And you know what? Just because somebody else is behaving badly does not give you the right to behave badly.
Yeah.
So, and I say that even with caregivers.
Yeah.
Oftentimes when we have multiple caregivers in a home situation, and one is complaining about the other, and they didn't take out the trash, and said, well, it's unfortunate that they didn't take out the trash, but that doesn't mean that you don't get to take out the trash. Right. You still have to do your job.
Yeah.
And we'll deal with the other side of it, but it doesn't get to be a situation where they did this or they didn't do that, so now I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do that. You know, you have to rise above and stay above all of that.
Yeah, and do what you have to do for you in the scenario. Is it that you need to pray a lot more? Do you need to go see your pastor and talk to him? Do you need to get into a support group? What is it that you have to do for you so that you can get through this? I think that's really, really just got to keep your care of you.
Yep. Yeah. So there you go. It's as easy as that.
Yeah. We've just fixed it all.
Right? Oh, yeah. Cool. Well, I think we started a trend last episode about these sayings that we want to learn more about what they actually mean.
Yes.
So we are going to end on a grandma saying, and basically the meaning and origin of a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
What does that mean,
What
Inga?
does it mean? A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush means that it's better to hold on to something you have rather than to take the risk of getting something better, which may come to nothing.
Oh, I did
There
not
you
know
go.
that.
I didn't either. The proverb warns against taking unnecessary risks. It's basically better to keep the bird that you have than to end up getting no birds, reaching for something that you're not going to get.
Huh.
Yeah. There you go. A bird in the hand is worth more than two in the bush, right?
Okay. I've heard it several times. I just never knew what it meant.
Now you do. All right, homies, if you have a grandma saying, if you have a verse, if you have anything you would like to share with us or you'd like us to share, please send it in. You can do that at thecaregivenpodcast@gmail.com. And make sure you go and subscribe and listen to these podcasts. Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube. Today's episode, especially you want to envision the ascot that Julie has brought for us all. It's bright and beautiful.
Thank you, Patsy.
Yes, thank you, Patsy. And go and follow our Apaga Care and Share group. And just reach out. We'd love to hear from you. And
We want your reviews, too.
oh, yes, we do want those reviews. I think we have a few now. So still 5 stars, not just from our mothers.
Yeah. That is right. My mother gives me the weekly review.
Yes.
But we
Mine
do want to
too.
hear from everybody else.
Awesome. Coolio. Well, peace out, Girl Scouts.
Yes. Have a good day.